The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Premal Dave, your panelist today from TestingWhiz. We're just going to wait a couple of more minutes for a lot of the attendees who are still joining in before we start. Okay, I see a lot of attendees have already logged in. Maybe it would be good to start now with keeping in mind our starting time. I would first off like to thank you all for showing interest into today's webinar. A lot of times we get questions from a lot of companies who are looking at automation tools or looking to get started with web test automation. And the whole concept of this webinar came from that, maybe we can create something that would allow them to do a double check before they start implementing automation. Just so you know, all of you would be in listen-only mode. So we will be answering question and answers at the end of the webinar session using the option provided for you to type in your question and send them through. So please be patient, and yes, please keep asking questions or noting them down as we proceed with the webinar. Just before we get started, I would like to just share this that we've had a great amount of interest from over 250 people who have registered for the webinar. I see a big deal out of them on today's session, and this is by far one of the best response we have received from you. Just before we move on, I want to spend a few minutes talking about TestingWhiz so that we can get you guys acquainted. A lot of you already know about this, but TestingWhiz, we have been offering a test automation solutions to our customers. There's a good amount of information that you can find out from our website, or you can read about us from some of the media articles that are available on these popular portals and blogs and magazines, etc. So I'm today going to talk about how to implement pragmatic web test automation. But before we do that, just coming down to some of the common challenges, common questions that we get asked by a lot of our customers or a lot of people that I interact with or my team interacts with day in and day out. Some of the biggest challenges are in implementing test automation. They don't have the resources, or they don't have enough knowledge about how to get started, or where to invest, what should be the strategy before they get started. The other problem they have is inability to test applications with complex architectures. A lot of times applications are always unstable, you are adding more and more features. There's not enough time for you to automate on the existing features or to cope up with the change and implement automation. The other thing is optimizing the automation. Okay, you have already decided that you want to save time, you want to look at some of the options to automate your testing cycles, but how to optimize it? And when you do that, how to implement something that would be more nimble and would actually save you time and overheads instead of increasing them when you start to implement it. Mostly, you would see the investment into automation starts at the peak, where your initial investment is high, but then as time passes, you get more and more return on your investments against the implementation that you've done. Then there are challenges of implementing continuous integration. You auto-release your applications day in and day out. There is a lot of buzz around implementing DevOps, continuous delivery, continuous integration. I actually like to use the word continuous testing because that's what we want our customers to do so that they can release their apps or their applications into the market with much more confidence. And then finally, difficulty in saving efforts into maintaining whatever they have created. Because as time passes, your automation suites become more and more expanded. They cover more and more of your test applications. They cover more and more amount of your code. The complexities increase, and you have more time. You have to spend more time in maintaining it and keeping everything up to date. So it does require a lot of due diligence if you want to meet the required quality and release deadlines. There are a good amount of solutions available in the market. We're going to not talk about the solutions, but talk about what kind of steps you can take. What are the essentials into your web test automation? So we have created this agenda today, and we're going to talk about these 7 essentials. I don't want to repeat everything here. I will start by each one of them, and then towards the end, we can have a small Q&A session, maybe 5 to 10 minutes, where you guys can type in your questions. So I'll start with the first one is plan and execute web test automation against real scenarios and behaviors, and how to do it. So the best way to test your application is to allow the end users to test it. Now, you can always create a beta version and can provide it to your end users before you take the full-blown release to the market, or you can implement a slightly more scientific way to do that, which is implementing data. Now, it's not always feasible for all people to all teams and all companies to implement end user or involve end users into their automation cycles. But it's always easy to actually bring in the actual data or bring in slightly more user-oriented behavior by implementing actual data that your application is going to work with. So for an example, if I'm implementing a test automation for maybe a test automation suite or a strategy for, say, an e-commerce application or a financial application, then I would actually like to bring in actual data sets with real numbers and figures and user details, credit card details, etc. into the play. So data-driven testing is offered
Unmuted.
tools in the market, and there's ways to bring in that data into your framework or into your test automation tool. There's a good amount of use that you can make from that whole exercise of bringing this data inside your application is by implementing data sets and logics to generate accurate results and relevant results to your application. For example, if I have let's say I'm testing a financial application, then I would like to add in a few digits here and there and see if my interest rates are coming out exactly the way they should be. Or if there's an e-commerce application, if I process multiple orders, am I getting the discount on the shipping and logistics, or am I applying some coupon codes, or if there are ways I can save on by using a particular credit card, then allow the testers to get that data and test it. The other way to do this is create both type of scenarios. So when you implement automation, it's fairly simple to use the same script and create a positive and a negative scenario. Let me provide an example. If you want to test, say, a form, and you want to test it for only numbers, then you should also involve and replace that data using the same automation script with different sets of numbers or a combination of alphabets and numbers. This is a very simple test case, but if you are testing this against a validation, or if the field allows you to input that information, then it's very easy to use the same test script and create multiple test data, both covering positive and negative scenarios. Talking about TestingWhiz, we allow ability to record and play back, and then we also support data-driven testing. There is a great amount of way to actually bring in your real data by integrating your databases, or there is an inbuilt test data generation where you can generate, say for an example, 20,000 different credit card numbers, all actually just testing with dummy data, or say different birth dates, names, email addresses, zip codes, etc. Or you can import if there is a bunch of test data dump that you have available from your manual testing exercise or from your other exercises. The other way to do this is to run test automation after daily code commits. There are multiple ways you can do this. I'm sure that if your development process is fairly mature, you would be testing your application or integrating continuous integration to bring in, develop your applications in an agile cycle, and then integrate everything using CI tools. There are tools like Jenkins and Bamboo available in the market. Some of them are open source, and they offer a great amount of ability to integrate with a lot of testing frameworks that are available in the market, both for unit testing and for functional testing. And do check if when you start implementing any automation, if your automation framework or the automation tool can integrate with a CI system. There are a lot of benefit of this, which means you can remove manual intervention. You can tie continuous integration tools with your automation suites in such a way that after each change to your application, your automation scripts can automatically kick in and you can get the results via your reporting method, or you can get it in these tools itself. At TestingWhiz, what we do is we allow you to integrate with tools like Jenkins and Bamboo, and you can not only get the results, but you can also kick off test cases as soon as something changes or you update or compile a build. These are available out of the box, so all you need is to configure Jenkins to run or Bamboo to run with TestingWhiz, and you will be up and running within no time. Moving on to the third item on the list, improving test coverage by reducing test execution time and the efforts. So there are two ways to do this. Well, I always tell customers or users to break down their long test cases into smaller modular pieces. So if, say, I have an example of, let's say an example. If I have a test case where I would log in into an application and then process a particular workflow, wherein I would go in and create a new item on the inventory, or I would go in and log in and create a new shipping item or something like that, I would actually see this as two different test cases. So instead of keeping the same test case in a continuous flow, I can create one test case or one automation script for login and one automation script for creating a shipment. If you can and further break it down into more modular pieces, and if time and if your team allows you to do that, I would insist that you do that. So a further example can be breaking down my test script into my login test script into two or three different components or two or three different scripts. So one script would only write username, the other would only populate, say, the password, and then third one would do login. Now this is a very simple example, but I probably believe you can get the idea and you can implement it into your other parts or other workflow that you wish to automate. Implement common code repository. So when you do this, you can, if you're breaking down your components into different modular scripts, then you can use those components as a common library or a common repository, and then build more scripts based on that. So if test script A executes, then you can call in test script B and allow it to create test scripts like building blocks that would reduce your overall time. Now this is also simple because that allows you to have less maintenance. And if something changes on your application, which is a common question a lot of people ask, that our apps keep changing very frequently, then you can go back and just make updates to one of the two sections. Then there are features like headless testing. Now, headless testing is nothing but using a way to execute test scripts without initiating browser instance or the browser UI. Your functional test can still work and run, but your computer and your hardware and your software resources won't be consuming it the time required to open the browser and render it. There's a great amount of information available on headless testing. We do integrate out of the box with headless testing. I see, for an example, a script which takes maybe a 60-second or say a few minutes to run. By implementing headless testing, I can guarantee that this can come down by at least 20%. And when you look at a large bunch of automation scripts that you wish to execute daily, this can definitely help you in implementing bigger scripts or more scripts and try to squeeze that down into smaller execution cycle or faster execution cycle to get the reports back. Now this is 100% scientific. Headless testing still gives good results. You can also test functional and data aspects of the application. You just cannot check images and UI elements if they are being rendered properly. So there is a catch here, but then you can always implement this for 80% or 60% of your functional testing requirements. The other way is to check browsers and platforms at minimum cost. Now there are several cloud platforms available in the market that can be combined with your automation strategies. There are tools like from Sauce Labs or BrowserStack, which are two of the most popular, but then there are a lot of new cloud execution platforms available in the market like BrowserLink, BrowserShots, Browser, etc. What it allows you to do is to save time on acquiring different set of hardware and different set of software licenses that you can run your tests against. It's always good that if you have instead of doing smoke testing, if you have run your test on full functional, um, the full functional suite or the regression suite against a particular hardware or a software version that your application might be running. So for an example, I want to run it against IE8, IE9, IE10, Microsoft Edge, Firefox, but then I also want to combine them with different versions of operating systems and test if all my functionality is working perfect. This is a great way to do this. These cloud platforms, they have so many amount of different platform and environment combinations and browser combinations that I could use or one could use to implement into their testing strategy to get the maximum out of their automation investments. Just to add, there is also a lot of mobile browsers that are available here, which I would typically not get my hands on or wouldn't be able to cover within all the devices and all the options that I have. So for an example, if I'm developing for iOS, there is an option to also test the app on iPads, etc., which I can definitely do that on using these providers. Now, we don't advocate any of these providers, but I do know that Sauce Labs and BrowserStack are very popular in the market, and a lot of customers, they've got a good amount of clients, and a lot of customers actually endorse them. We at TestingWhiz allow integration with these two tools, and yeah, any script that you create, as you can see from the screenshot, there's an example of script, and when I look at the execution option, I can execute this against a particular BrowserStack or Sauce Lab profile. You will also see here there's a headless testing option here, which is also available out of the box. Moving on to the fifth item on the list, find, report, and fix bugs early in the process. Well, this is not a new new item on the list. I think it's something that most of you are already aware with. A lot of QA and test managers do believe it's one of the most common knowledge a person can provide to you. But what I'm actually talking about is, if possible, implement or integrate a defect tracking system into your automation framework or your automation tool or the automation strategy. So when you're going out in the market to implement a tool or to look at a tool to automate your web testing or any kind of your testing initiatives, you can look for tools that provide ability to integrate with different types of defect tracking systems and different types of defect logging systems. There are also a lot of test management platforms available in the market that come inbuilt with these defect management systems. Depending upon whatever option you're choosing, there are open source, there are paid versions. Always look for an option that would allow you to do this. While automation tools are becoming more smart and come integrated out of the box with multiple defect management systems, same way defect management systems are also offering plugins to integrate for some of the frameworks that are not commercial or do not offer these out-of-the-box integrations. So if your automation lead is implementing something like this, or if you're already an automation lead, is a good way to do this. A small analysis that I've conducted is, on an average, a tester spends about 10 minutes logging 10 minutes of time on each defect that they log. Along with the images and the screenshots and the steps to reproduce, this can go up to 20 minutes. So if I am a tester and I would log, say after I run my execution or automation scripts, and I log at least 2 defects per day, which is the which is a very, very low average, I would spend about 20 minutes a day and maybe more than um, 100 minutes a week and maybe 400 minutes per month, which would come out to somewhere around 6 to 7 hours of work that a tester, or six and a half to be precise, hours of work each month. Now, if you just tie up your bug tracking system with your automation scripts, and you can allow to log defect whenever something fails, this would easily bring out the ROI, and this is a good way you can go back to your management and tell them that we have not just received ROI from implementing the automation scripts, but we have also received time and received ROI from these initiatives that we have taken up on integrating bug tracking systems. To which TestingWhiz is something that already comes integrated with some of the most popular tools available in the market, like Atlassian Jira, Fogbugs, Mantis, etc. The way it works is you can, whenever a script fails, you see an option, you have an option to press a button and integrate your system with it, which would log a defect. When you log a defect, it would capture all the information about what version you are running against, what is the OS version, what browser version, which script, which step, and if possible, if there is a failure screenshot, it would also attach it with an appropriate title. And while this can be done to log defects automatically, we don't allow that because you don't want the same defects to be logged again and again. Also, there's a mechanism in TestingWhiz that allows you to stop from logging defects out of the same execution cycle to avoid duplicates. So I feel really proud that we have done this, and I would insist that a lot of people that are joining on today's webinar go out and try to implement this with their automation frameworks, even if it's open source, etc. I know Selenium offers, there are a lot of open source tools around Selenium that allows you to integrate with other defect tracking systems. As we move forward, I'm going to move slightly more into some of the more complex or the scientific items on the list, which is repurpose your test script for optimized test automation efforts. Now, most of you know that when you get started with automation, it's always good to go in and implement a framework for common objects on your web page. So for an example, if you're going to use, again, I would go back to my example, if you're going to use the login button or the home button or the submit button, or say if you have an online web shop that sells something, you have the order button or a checkout button, then you can implement these items in a common, or package them into a common libraries. When you build, when you have created a minimum set of items that you feel you require on your automation script, go ahead and start creating, then only go ahead and start creating your automation scripts. So first, lay down the basic framework, then start adding or building automation scripts around these libraries. There's also ability where you should be, a lot of these open source tools allow you to import and export data or reuse this test scripts into other formats. And then there are several tools that allow you the ability to reuse scripts. There are a lot of helper functions that you can actually build into your scripts. Luckily with TestingWhiz, we have an inbuilt feature which is called methods. So what it would do is if I have every time I need to log in into the system, which is to run any kind of workflows, I would need the ability. If it's a secure application, I need the ability to log in into it. I would save those 2 or 3 or 4 steps that I need to log in into the application as a common method. And when I do that, I can actually use that as a reusable test step that I can implement onto my test script. So if you see here on the script, I only have a single method, but there can be more than 4 or 5 steps inside here, which I can club and reuse within my test case. The other way TestingWhiz allows you to do this is you can simply copy and paste information from one test script to another test script. Just like I would copy some information off of an Excel sheet or a workbook and paste it onto another test script. So that's also something that TestingWhiz allows. And then repurpose these test scripts and optimize it to use it. So for example, if I want to just change these scenarios, then I can. The way I would do this is I would just go in and update my login details, or I would change my password, and then that change can get reflected onto all these scripts. The same way I can do this for a lot of other workflow options I can think of, like logging out or filling in information, or a set of test data that I'm using to place an order, or an address that I'm going to use frequently to test something on my application. This brings down to our 7th item on the list, and the most important, which is report crucial issues to drive performance matrices and team productivity. So great, you have implemented an automation script, you have the ability to test your application, but how data-driven are you? What kind of information you are producing for your management to provide visibility into all the investment that has gone into your automation script, and how well defined are your reports available to the analysts or the development team that is going to fix those issues when the reports land into their hands. There are a lot of reporting APIs and a lot of tools available that can be integrated. A lot of open source frameworks now provide these reporting libraries or reporting mechanism out of the box. There's also an option where you can customize it. If you're using commercial tools to implement your automation, make sure that you also check what kind of reporting and analytics do they provide. It's very important, and as time passes, you would realize that with each iteration you would be looking for one or the other data. We have customers who sometimes look for complete traceability of the number of lines of code that you can cover using an automation script, or a automation script against how many requirements are they covering, or how many manual test cases are they covering. There's also another way you can do this, is implementing a test management system. There are a lot of open source options available out in the market. There are also commercial tools, but go and spend time into implementing test management tools that would store all your test assets, your reports, your execution results, your screenshots, visual logs, etc. into a common set of systems. Guys, putting it on folders and putting it on SVN and source control is not a good way. So do spend time into implementing reporting into your automation strategy. It is very pivotal, and it is going to be something that will allow your management complete visibility into what is being tested, how that is tested, and then maybe collaborate it with your development team. Take inputs from them, what they need, um, to help them fix these defects that you're reporting out after each automation execution cycle to them. At TestingWhiz, we take pride by implementing a robust reporting and analytical ability. We also offer ability to integrate email integration. So say for an example, I'm running a report and I want to, if I'm running an automation cycle or an iteration, and I want to send out a report after each end of that execution cycle, I can do that. There is also ability where you can send out intermittent reporting updates using a function which is called sendMail. I can simply type in which email address I would like to send this, and then I can add logical ability for the test script to send out an update if the test step before I send out an email has passed or failed. So that's out there. We also offer ability to take our API and implement it on MongoDB, which is an open source system, to build in your own analytical framework. There are a lot of people that, and there are a lot of there's a lot of information available in the market, which can allow you to learn how to build your own small analytical dashboard. But it's a good time and good time spent into building one and implementing something like this for your team. It's going to go in for a long, and even after you're done with your automation, creating your automation scripts, or if you're done with a product version, these reports and these historical data is going to be very helpful into your future testing cycles, where you can actually point out that, okay, look, out of every execution we do, this is the ratio of defects that we get. So that brings me to some of the success stories that I have. We have helped customers implement automation onto different areas. TestingWhiz allows implementing automation on not just web testing, but also API, database, etc. Here is an example where we've implemented regression testing for one of our customers, a leading financial institution, and automated their entire flow, right from generating a loan application from their website to Salesforce and beyond. And then here's another success story about how TestingWhiz helped a luxury high-end retailer who uses Oracle ATG web commerce framework to automate their cross-browser testing, their mobile testing, etc. for their teams. And finally, the number 3, which is regression automation of more than 915 test cases into an execution cycle of 48 hours. We will put this presentation on the webinar page, and a link to that would be also emailed to you for you to download in a PDF copy or a copy of your choice. You can also subscribe to this on SlideShare, so we will shortly be sharing this with you. We're going to take a break for any questions or queries you guys have, which we can answer now. So if you want to ask a question, you can simply raise a hand, or there's a question mark available onto your screen. You can simply take that. Okay, we have a question from one of the attendees. So the question is, what is the difference between TestingWhiz and Ranorex? Well, so while Ranorex is it allows you to script using some of the programming languages. TestingWhiz is 100% codeless, so we don't use any kind of programming skills to automate your application. All you have to do is record a script, and then it gets laid out into an Excel-like interface where you can just simply change information. What we call this is a keyword-driven framework. So for every test step that you can imagine, there's already a test command available for it to match with. So think of it as a Lego building block, and you can just mix and match and create your test script into a sequence. And then that allows you to maintain your test scripts much faster. Then there are a lot of other features where Ranorex does not allow you to test APIs. TestingWhiz allows you to do that. So you can test your REST, JSON, etc. Now, my knowledge to Ranorex is going to be whatever primary research we have done. So do take this as not 100% accurate. But yeah, that is possible to do. And then there is also TestingWhiz allows you to automate database testing, which is not something that Ranorex allows you to do. Okay, fantastic. We have one more question. Is it possible to integrate with OnTime and TestRail, for example? So we offer a standard reporting API. An integration API. You can email to info or maybe write an email to us, and someone can provide you with the API documentation. I believe OnTime and TestRail are for defect tracking and test management. Of course, we have plugins which can tie up, and with small tweaks or small customizations, this can be achieved. Yes. No, we don't use, so there's one more question which is about, is it required for my QA team to learn about coding in any particular language? No, so we use keyword-driven framework. You can download TestingWhiz and you can try it out, and you will notice that there's no need for your teams to learn how to code. There's no programming language. In fact, I don't have any programming experience, but I can still automate. And there are a lot of videos that you will find on our YouTube channel or on our website that will show you how the Codeless framework works. Okay, there's one more question is, I would like to see how can I make changes in a test case without access to the code. How faster is it? I need real example. Okay, Kira, I would maybe we can you can subscribe or book a demo or something, and someone can actually show you how to do this. There are also videos available on our homepage that you can go, or you can go to our website. Hi, is it possible to create user stories like features in Cucumber JVA and execute them using like business root? I'm not sure if I understand your question correctly, but your question is it possible to create user stories like features in Cucumber JVM and execute them? I am not 100% sure, but we do allow ability to test your entire application using different business workflows, as well as ability to test the application based on priority of your business. So we allow test cases to be flagged as high, medium, and low priority, and that is how this can be done. How are the opportunities on TestingWhiz? Okay, there's one more question, but I don't know if I understand this. Is how are the opportunities on TestingWhiz? Well, they're great. So sorry, I don't think I understand your question. Yes, so there's one more question, and I'm going to take this final question before we end the session. We are already above our time. The question is it behavioral driven development compatible? I mean, if it's possible to reuse to create test cases with declaratives like JBHAB. I think the answer would be yes, but I'm not sure because I haven't used JBHAB. I'll definitely Google this afterwards, and Javier, I would drop you an email or send out an answer to your question personally. I really appreciate the interest, and I'm sorry I have no experience with JBHAB, so I'm not able to comment on your answer right away. Okay, thanks everyone for joining us and joining me today. I hope this session has been informative for you. I would request you to all go to our website and download the 30-day trial version. It's available, it's free, and then you can try out TestingWhiz on your own. If you need any personal assistance, you can always drop an email or request a demo or send it out to info@TestingWhiz, and we will be more than happy to answer any of your unanswered questions and take them from there. Thanks again, and you have a wonderful week ahead.